In my previous video, I covered how to detect various fouls and showed examples of bad calls in pro tournament matches. In this video, I demonstrate 10 useful ways to avoid a double hit foul when the gap between the cue ball and object ball is small. Many clips from this video are taken from other videos. If you want to learn more about any of the techniques or see more demonstrations, check out the links in the video description. When the gap between the balls is really small, the only reliable way to avoid a double hit is to shoot the cue ball at an angle. As long as the cue ball starts off in the tangent line direction, the shot is legal. One relatively easy way to avoid a double hit is to use a short bridge and short stroke like this. With a larger gap, it is easy to avoid a double hit by elevating the cue. But even a highly elevated cue is no guarantee of a legal hit. Don't let anybody tell you, "I elevated the cue and the cue ball drew back, so it isn't a foul." If they want to argue with you, show them this part of the video. When the gap is small, a double hit can sometimes be avoided with cue elevation, but the cue needs to be nearly vertical like this. That shot was actually a double hit, but when it is too difficult to tell visually while watching the shot, assuming slow motion video instant replay is not available or an option, the benefit of doubt would go to the shooter. When the gap is small and the shot is short, you might be able to get a good hit just by tightening the grip like this. Did you notice how simply tightening the grip and arm sent the cue forward very slightly? Another option is to use a firm grip on the shaft with a tight closed bridge hand to limit cue motion. Did you see the locked bridge hand flex and shift a little to allow the cue to move forward only a small distance? For shots that are difficult to reach like this, a good option is the following technique. First, position the cue on the table pointing in the required direction with the tip close to the cue ball, keeping a hand on the cue at all times. Then form a bridge close to the cue ball and grip the cue with your fingers close to the bridge. The bridge hand, which should be firmly planted on the table, will stop the forward motion of the cue to prevent a double hit. Here's another example. Another technique to avoid a double hit is to use your grip hand to stop the stroke against the rail. First, position the tip close to the cue ball, then slide your grip hand forward so it is touching the rail, and then stroke into the ball. It might hurt a little, but it works like a charm. Here's another example.
In super slow motion, you can see Bob's hand striking the end of the table. This stops the cue almost immediately and prevents a double hit.
You can even get the cue ball to follow with a legal hit using this technique.
In super slow motion, you can clearly see the single legal hit and the follow action. Notice how quickly the knuckles stop the cue, preventing a double hit.
When using sidespin, it is much easier to avoid a double hit with an inside spin shot. Here, I plan to use inside follow to get shape on the 8 up table. The double hit is very easy to avoid here since the cue ball is coming off the object ball in the opposite direction as the cue tip is coming off the cue ball. It is more difficult to avoid a double hit with outside spin since the cue tip is starting in the same direction as the cue ball off the object ball. This shot is a foul. Did you see how the cue ball went forward immediately and more than it should have for this type of shot? Another side spin technique that can be used to avoid a double hit while getting significant cue ball speed is a fouetté or whip shot. Here, extreme bottom right spin is being used, allowing the tip end of the shaft to flex away from the cue ball as it clears.
Here's a view from above in super slow motion. Bottom right English is being used, so it's difficult to see clearance between the tip and the cue ball. But if you watch the cue ball closely, there does not appear to be a double hit in the shot. Here's an oblique view that gives us a better look at the shot. Notice how the cue deflects away, giving the cue ball time to clear.
Here are some more examples from Russian Azkaf76 on YouTube. Here's a game situation shot example from Ralph Eckert on Facebook, showing how the technique can be useful, this time with top right spin. That was a legal shot with no double hit. Demetrius would like to hold the cue ball behind the 8 for a safety, but he also needs to drive the object ball to the rail for the shot to be legal. A good approach with this shot is to use your jump cue. Because the jump cue is so light, if you use a short stroke, it is very easy to avoid the double hit. It helps to use a really loose grip and wrist, holding the cue in your fingertips. That was a great safety. With the cue ball frozen to the 8, Demetrius' opponent, shooting solids, is in big trouble. Here's a similar technique from Mike Massey.
What you do, you're going to do it sidearm, like this right here, and just hold it out here just like it, and just peck. It's a pecking motion, just like that.
Another technique you might prefer is choking up on the cue with the forearm almost horizontal, where the cue won't advance much with the regular pendulum stroke motion. The hand comes up more than forward to limit the follow-through. Here's an alternative dart stroke technique with the butt of the cue between your arm and body. Here it is in slow motion. Notice that the cue can smack the rail, or in this case the pocket liner, with this approach. A related technique is to use your chest or the end of travel of your elbow joint to limit the forward motion of the cue, like this. A creative way to avoid a small gap double hit is to use a really light cue. Here, I've just extended my jump cue shaft with a paper towel tube I slit, cut, and taped to the joint to make the cue satisfy the required minimum length of 40 inches. The total weight is about 4 ounces, which is lighter than the cue ball. Therefore, with a light grip and wristy fingertip stroke, or by just hitting the butt of the cue with your hand, the cue will bounce back from the cue ball and easily avoid the double hit. If you don't like the paper towel roll idea, you can instead make a short and light cue out of a thin aluminum, fiberglass, or carbon fiber tube, or solid balsa wood. In slow motion, you can see that my hand stopped the cue from bouncing back, but it is clear there was only a single hit on the cue ball. Here, I am supporting the back of the cue on the rail. You could also support the cue with your hand like this. You can even get follow action with an above center hit with this technique. I hope you learned something from the 10 ways to avoid a double hit foul. I also hope you can use some or all of the techniques in various game situations. Maybe the shots will help you win some games. If you want to learn more about how to both detect and avoid fouls in pool, see the videos and info at the Fouls resource page linked in the video description. And if you want to test your knowledge and understanding of pool rules, take the online quiz also linked in the video description. Have fun with the quiz, and good luck with your game from Dr. Dave.